What's up, guys? Sub-Zero here. I just wanted to give a quick rundown of my thoughts on patch 12.1 in TFT and what the strongest comps are right now. I've done a lot of research on what top Challenger players are playing, and also just looked at my own games, their games, all that kind of stuff. And this is my opinion. You know, it could be wrong. It's the first day of the patch, but I want to get this out so I can tell you guys what comps you should spam on this patch if you want to hard climb. Okay, so I'll make this really quick. I don't want to go into super depth, and obviously it's not like a super insane graphic here. But in S tier, I have Lux and Jhin. These are, in my opinion, the best comps on the patch. Lux Arcanist reroll, you play 6 Arcanists with Lux, and then you can add in other stuff. It could be bodyguards, it could be Janna Yuumi. Most often it's Janna Yuumi, but if you get an extra Arcanist, you can tech in some other stuff. You know, throw a Tark in there, maybe throw in some bodyguards plus a Yuumi. Get an extra Arcanist. You can play 4 Arcanists. I played that earlier today, and that video will be going up on my channel later this week. The comp is so good. It's just like so many other things in the meta have gotten pushed down. I feel like Urgot may have actually been a pretty good matchup into it now that that's pretty much out of the way. As you can see, it's down here in B tier. And by the way, you know, we have S, A, and B. Not a lot of differences, but like everything else, I think, are these tiers. You know, there's some other random stuff you can play. This doesn't cover everything, but this is just a very, very rough idea of the patch. So yeah, Lux way too good. Jhin, exact same area. I think Jhin is just an insane carry. If you get to a late game Jhin comp with Jhin, good items on Jhin, and he uses so many items well, then you're definitely in the top 4 of the game. You can top 2, top 1 the game. So there's a couple of Jhin comps running around. You can play like bodyguards Jhin. So that's like Jhin, MF, plus Leona, Braum, and then it's usually like Yuumi, Janna. You can throw in a Tark in there, always an Orianna. So something like that. Or you can go the Colossus Scion carry, well, not carry, but Scion frontline Jhin, where you play Jhin, Orianna, MF, but then your frontline is Scion plus Blitzcrank plus Braum, and then you can, you know, tech in one more unit there. It could be a Taric, could be Yuumi. Yeah, I don't think there's anything crazy I'm forgetting there. Probably like a Janna would be best there to get scrap. So those are like the 2 really strong Jhin comps. If you want free LP and these aren't super contested in your games, I would be playing these 2 comps. I'm putting them around the same level. There's no ordering here. So that's that. A tier, a bunch of random stuff. I think Orianna's actually a really solid carry. You can play this as a carry. You can play it in the Jhin comp, or you can play it as its own carry with very similar stuff to the Jhin comp. Some people are experimenting with like Chalice. You slam Chalice, you play like Seraphine, Orianna, and like Janna, and then you just play like a similar to Jhin comp, but you carry Orianna plus Seraphine with Chalice, and eventually you get like a 3rd AP carry, maybe like Victor late game, or like a Kali if you had an Akali 2-star, something like that. So there's some cool stuff you can do with Orianna. I think she's a really solid carry. I have Akali and Shaco here. I think this Syndicate comp, whether it's Shaco reroll or whether you're capping out with Akali plus a bunch of Syndicates, I think is really strong. So definitely don't overlook that. If you want to play Shaco reroll, I think it's totally playable. So I would definitely look at that as an opportunity. It's just you have to get to the Shaco. It's kind of like Nocturne last set, where you can't just spam Shaco from the get-go. You probably play strongest board and eventually get to Shaco. Cog reroll, I was actually, you know, my patch preview, I was like, is Cog reroll dead? Is this comp no good anymore? It's alive and well. A lot of people are playing it. It seems like the fact that, I mean, there's not a ton of reroll going around. It's probably like the premier reroll comp right now. So it does pretty well into most meta matchups if you can position well. I mean, like a Lux can theoretically just one-shot a Kog'Maw, so like a Super Cap Lux board versus Super Cap Cog board, you might end up losing. But it looks like the meta is just opened up in such a way that it's still playable, and you know, Cog is still a good unit. So Cog reroll good. Seraphine is just the stand-in for like innovators comps here. I guess it would also be good to pull up like Jayce here, but it's so hard to find units in this organization. I literally, like, can you find Jayce here? There's Jayce. Seraphine and Jayce. Jayce should honestly be here right with Seraphine. This represents like a late game innovator comp. So 5 innovators is really good. If you can get to 7 innovators, that's like an easy top 4, very often top 1, top 2 kind of thing. So you can play a Seraphine carry, you can play a Jayce carry, you can play Heimerdinger carry, but I find that a little bit worse. I'll get to that a little bit later. So this is really good. Jayce on his own is actually also an insane AD carry. So if you have really good AD items, just slam him on Jayce, baby, and put him in the back line as the sniper form, and he'll just win you so many fights. You can just play a super cap late game board with Jayce 2, like Tom Kench 2, like a bunch of just random 5 costs, like Yuumi 2, and then like throw in a Janna, throw in some bruisers, maybe, you know, maybe socialites. But yeah, just strong front line and then Jayce backline, and he will do a ton of work. I got Kaisa here in A tier. I think, you know, she's definitely not the S tier she was before, but if you hit a late game Kaisa board, you're doing fine. You know, she's still, she's not the premier carry, but she is still pretty good, I would say. So if you're a huge fan of Kaisa comps, I would still try out Kaisa. You might be leaning more towards mutant comps, or, you know, like Socialite's not terrible. It's just definitely not as good as it was before. And speaking of Socialites, Fiora, Socialite carry, is also, I've seen it do very well in like high challenger games. So I think this is totally still a relevant champion. She's just so good, right? You're rolling down early, you find like a Fiora 1, you just put Fiora 1 in and slam some items on her, and she like wins all the fights for you. It's kind of nuts. So Fiora can fit into a ton of different comps. You can play her in challengers, you can play her as a Socialite carry on her own. I was watching Bebe's stream today, Bebe872, something like that. I'm not trying to do an ad for him, but I'm just trying to get his name right. He played Imperials with Fiora with an Imperial spat and an Assassin spat on her, and it popped off. So great unit there. All right, in the B tier, there's everything that I think is just okay. Heimerdinger, it really hasn't performed that well for me. It's a good unit early, but I haven't really seen too many people like winning games with a 3-star Heimerdinger. It's happened here and there, but it's not been as good as I thought it was going to be. So right now I see it in B tier, unless someone figures out some insane Heimerdinger comp or build or something like that. Also in B tier is Yone. I think this unit also, like I said during my patch rundown video, just like why are they nerfing Yone? He's still playable. He's still, you know, B tier along with all of these other comps. But you know, if you had the choice of playing Jhin or Yone, you're gonna play Jhin every single time. And they use somewhat similar items. But you know, there's some items that if you slam, you're more likely to play Yone. So it's still playable. You can play the 6 challenger variant. You can play like an Arcanists, or not Arcanists, Academy variant with like 4 Academy, or maybe even 6 Academy, depending on what your augments are. So you can take him a lot of different ways. But I think he's definitely worse than Jhin. He's not the premier ADC carry. AD carry. Okay, next we have Imperials, actually. These perform worse than I thought as well. I have not seen a ton of people. I really thought Imperials were going to be popping off this patch. Talon is still an insane unit. If you get an early rapid fire cannon, which was buffed this patch as well, slam that on Talon, you're going to win straight to like stage 4. Like this unit is not balanced. Like super late game, you know, it tends to fall off. If you play Imperial reroll and you hit a Samira 3 and a Talon 3 and a Swain 3, you're probably good. You're probably good to top 4. You're probably top 2 if you have good items. But I haven't really seen these comps like either, you know, Samir carry or a Talon carry super hard popping off recently. So that's something to think about. Malzahar, this just represents like Malzahar mutant carry with like Malz 3, Cho'Gath 3, stuff like that. I've seen this pop off. I thought it was like garbage last patch. I saw it like absolutely nowhere, though, you know, a few people are playing it here and there. So maybe I just haven't like researched it enough and seen enough people play it. But I've seen some success this patch. So it was probably good last patch, and I'm just not. I just didn't play it at all, but it's probably still good this patch. So hit a Mouse 3, hit a Cho 3, win the game. And last but not least, we have our boy Urgot here, representing the Chemtech Urgot comp, whether that is the Jinx variant or like the Kog'Maw plus Kaisa variant that gets in mutant. It got nerfed. It got hard nerfed. I don't think it's as good anymore. So that is life. Yeah. So this is my opinion of the comps that are good. If you want to stick around for a second, I have a few small pieces of advice for you as far as items that I think you should take, and also as far as what I think the tempo of this set, this patch actually looks like, because I think all of that is really important in figuring out like what is actually good in this patch. So as far as early items on Carousel, I'm seeing a lot of people start bow and just going into AD route. You know, these 3 carries are all still very playable, and Fiora as well. You know, you take a bow, you can slam a Last Whisper for Jhin, you can slam a Renans. Those are the 2 really good. And Static Shiv is still okay, but with Static Shiv being worse and Urgot being worse, I'm not a huge fan of the slam, but I still see people slamming it, so it's not bad. So bow start, that's a good one. Another good start is Sword. So you can start Sword, you can still slam GA, even though it's nerfed this patch. I think it's still like a totally usable item. So you can take Sword, slam GA. That's probably the best slam with Swords. You can slam IE, which is actually something I'm more of a fan of. I haven't seen a ton of like high challenger players picking it up, so maybe I'm garbage and it's terrible. But I actually like the game plan of you start the game and you start a Sword, you slam an IE early, and then you flex Jhin Lux. It's free elo, it's free real estate. You can play the two best comps, okay? Because you can find a JG and make IE JG Lux, or you can just play IE freaking Jhin, and you can get an IE Last Whisper, and then, you know, throw in any third damage item, Giant Slayer. I literally had one in my head just a second ago. I mean, Deathblade's good, you know, any third item. IE Last Whisper, Renon's the one I'm thinking of. So you can do that on Jhin, and, you know, you can also play IE for Lux. So I think that's a pretty good slam as well. In that same vein, I think Glove Start is really good, right? Both these carries, Lux and Jhin, I like to start an item that can flex into good items for 2 comps. Ideally, you know, sometimes more, and, you know, any item can flex into a lot of comps. Start Glove, bruh, okay? This is once again my opinion. I haven't seen like a lot of high elo players playing it, but this is what I think. You start Glove, and then you can slam IE, JG, Last Whisper, all fantastic items. You can play, because Lux and Jhin both want at least 2 gloves, right? Because Lux wants IE plus Jeweled Gauntlet, and Jhin wants IE plus Last Whisper. Those are like their best items. So you start Glove because both these comps need a lot of gloves. So that's my take. And then, you know, all the other items are fine. If you start a tier, you can slam Blue Buff and play into AP. I would not be slamming Archangels. It's not as good anymore. It's still an okay item, but I wouldn't be ecstatic about slamming it. I slammed a Shojin earlier today, and it felt fine. But if I'm getting a tier start, I would most like to slam Blue Bluff and play AP. You could slam Static Shiv as well, like I was talking about before. If you take a Giant Spell, I'm just going through all the components now. This is my last one, and you can figure out the other ones on your own. If you take a Giant Spell, Warmog Slam is good, Redemption Slam is good. Morello's is obviously a little nerfed, so it's not as good, but I see a ton of people slamming Morellos, so feel free to slam Morellos. Oh, and the last thing I want to point out, I was watching Bebe's stream. I don't know if this is a quirk to him, because I haven't seen a ton of other people playing it, but he really likes to slam Quicksilver and then play Yone with it. Quicksilver Yone with Quicksilver, GA, and Gwinsu's Rage Blade, and then play a lot of Academy units. That's like his sleeper Yone tech, you know? Some people, I think I've heard people refer to it as like the Chinese Yone build before. So if you want to try that out, I think it's actually pretty solid. Okay, so that's items. Last thing I want to go over, if you're still here, if you want this free information in your head, tempo of this patch. Last patch was really slow. You saw no one rolling down on 6. People very rarely rolling down on 7 unless you're like dying, and then you roll everything down on 8, try to find Kaisa, and win the game. The tempo of this patch has shifted a bit because, you know, Kaisa socialites are nerfed. So now it's a little bit more normal. I still find it pretty slow. I see people very rarely rolling down on 6. It is nothing like the Katarina patch where you had to have a strong board or you were paying the Katarina attacks and taking 12 damage. But it's still not as slow as the Kaisa patch where you would just never roll. So there's a little bit of a middle ground there where I think a decent number of people are rolling down on 7 to improve their board if they need to. You know, if you can go fast 8, you have a strong enough board. You know, if you natural a Misfortune to a Mal's 2 and a good front line, then you don't really need to roll down and you just go fast 8. So yeah, those are the big things that I wanted to nail in this patch preview. Starting items, comps, tempo, good item slams. I think those are all the big ones. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know it's different from my usual type of content. If you do like this kind of content, let me know, because usually I just, you know, post videos of me playing the game, and I like it. It's very easy for me to make, but I do like this kind of content, and I ideally would like to make some more like edited content where, you know, you're seeing a bunch of cool graphics and stuff. Let me know if you guys are actually interested in that, because I could do that. It just takes a lot of time. So if people don't want to see it, then I'm not going to do it. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button. I appreciate it a ton. Subscribe to me. I'm seeing a lot of channel growth recently. It's really encouraging. It's really lovely to see, you know, people subscribing to me and some really nice comments you guys leave on my videos. You guys are super nice. So keep leaving those nice comments, subscribe, and also check out my Twitch stream down below. I stream on YouTube and I also stream on Twitch. I prefer Twitch, just because I'm more used to the UI, and you can also use the Twitch Prime subscription on me. Okay, I'm rambling, and this video is getting long, so I am going to hop off. We're perfectly at 15 minutes, so I'm gonna hop off. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys in the next video.